everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel Rather Be Reading, and today I'm bringing to you a recent reads video. It has been a week once again since I last checked in for a recent reads video. I managed to complete a total of 5 books this past week, which I'm pretty happy with. I did think I was going to get a few more done, but a few things cropped up at the end of the week, which we'll kind of touch on later. So let's jump straight in and talk about the books that I completed. The first couple I have already spoken about on my channel if you saw my long weekend reading vlog that I think will be the video that went up, yes, most recently before this video that I filmed last weekend. Then you will kind of already heard my thoughts on the first 2 of these, but I will touch on them. So the first book that I completed this past week was The Silent House by Nell Patterson. This is a NetGalley arc, so I did receive a digital copy in exchange for an honest review. This is a thriller, and it follows a community that has a lot of deaf or hard of hearing people within it, and within that community there is a family unit, and the mother is hard of hearing and the father is deaf, and they have between them 3 children, and the 3 children are all sleeping together in a room one night, and when the woman, the female of the family, gets up the next morning, she discovers that one of the children is dead. Now, when I first read the synopsis, for some reason in my head I was just assuming that the daughter of this family who had died was like a teenage daughter. It's not, so just be aware if this is something that would be too hard for you to read. The little girl who died is only 18 months old, so it does involve the case of a murder of a child, so just be aware of that. This book got off to a really strong start for me. I will say that as well that there is some own voice elements to the representation in this. Nell Patterson, from what I understand, is has some hearing loss herself, can wear hearing aids but doesn't like to wear hearing aids, and is a deaf educator as well. And I'm not sure if she was a deaf educator before she had hearing loss herself or the other way around, but either way she's involved in deaf education and it does have some hearing loss herself. And so we're following the main character is a hearing person, but she is a British sign language interpreter she's just a freelance interpreter, but does in this case work with the police on this case. She has a family. Her sister is deaf and is just been involved in the deaf community her whole life. So it got off to a strong start. I was interested in the crime and the murder and what had happened and who all had done it. And I liked at the beginning there were very clear boundary lines drawn by the police, between the police and the main character, and not falling into the thriller trope of the police providing way too much information that just wouldn't happen in real life. But as the story went on, we did start to fall into that trope a little bit, and there also was the kind of thing where the characters do things and insert themselves in situations or tell people things that you just doesn't seem like in life you would make those decisions, because they don't seem like the best decisions that would to be made. But it was an interesting story. It wasn't anything overly shocking. There is kind of a limited pool of suspects. I did guess the ending, but overall it was an enjoyable mystery. Nothing super great, but I did enjoy it enough, and I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. Then I read what is easily my least favorite book that I've read in a couple of years, and that is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is this is a Penguin classic, as you can tell, but this is more of a modern classic. I believe this was originally, was it 85? Originally published in, I think it's 1985. Yes, 1985, and this is translated. This is originally published in Spanish, and it's translated by Edith Grossman. And so this is a very slow, more character-focused story that you're basically following. At the start of the story, there is this couple. They're in their 70s. I think the woman's in her 70s, the man's in his 80s, and he's a doctor, and they have this parrot, and he is attempting to get the parrot out of a tree when he falls from the ladder that he's standing on and dies. And so he is dead, and you then have the widow, who, a man from her past that was a person that she had a failed love affair with before she married her husband, turns back up and is like, hey, I'm here, I've been waiting for you all these years, like, I still love you, let's be together. And then you kind of go back and you get the story of their failed love affair, plus her then love affair with the husband, and kind of throughout the years and what the guy was doing following the failed love affair. All of that was incredibly boring. I didn't like the writing, didn't like the characters, didn't like anything about it. And then the main, like, really big problems that I had with it, I spoke about a spoiler, a more specific spoilery thing in my vlog, so feel free to check that out. It's towards the end of the vlog. I think it's the very last clip of the vlog, if you want to check that out. But the big problem that I have with this is that, to me, this romanticizes sexual assault on at least 2 different occasions. And I really had a massive problem with that and the way that it was handled. And I already wasn't enjoying it. I basically didn't like anything about this, and then adding that on top, I just really ended up hating this book, and I gave it 1 star. So they're the 2 that you already would have heard about in my vlog, but I did read 3 others over the course of the week. So the next one that I finished was The Messenger by Markus Zusak. I will say this has got 2 titles. I believe in some places it's called I Am the Messenger or just The Messenger. So this is and see, this is the thing. This is shelved and is marketed as YA. I don't really get the whole YA thing. The main character is 19, but it's not really, it's like he has a job and a house and, like, lives, like, on his own, and is, like, kind of dealing with more, it's coming of age kind of in a way, but in a more adult sense rather than, like, a young adult sense. And there's nothing really in this that's targeted to me at young adult readers. Like, I don't get the YA classification, basically. So this is basically a contemporary story. The main character at the start is in a bank when a bank robbery takes place. And that kind of changes the tide of his life, like everything that's going on. And he then, following this, receives a playing card in the mail, and it has some stuff on it, and it kind of sends him on a journey of dealing with what's going on with these playing cards. I had mixed feelings about this. Markus Zusak's writing style in this book in particular is very, I'm like, it's not really a problem for me because it does make the story incredibly easy to fly through. It's very short, choppy, like, sentences, like more of like a staccato type of writing style. But like I said, it does make it very easy to get through. But overall, I just found the story kind of odd and, like, not in a way that, like, was particularly impressive to me. I then also really didn't like the ending, or like the interpretation of it. Well, not like my interpretation, like the way that the ending is kind of, all the events and, like, why they were taking place, the way that is kind of, like, explained to be in the book. I was like, what? I, like, didn't really like that. So this was a bit of a miss for me, which is sad because obviously Markus Zusak is the author of The Book Thief, one of my favorite books of all time, but this one just didn't really hit the mark for me, and I ended up giving this 2.75 stars. I then listened on audio to The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, and I just realized I didn't write the narrator down, so I will put the narrator on the screen for you guys. So this is a contemporary story told from the perspective of a dog named Enzo, and you kind of just get the life, really, of his owner, Denny, but, like, through the eyes of Enzo, this dog. I went into this with fairly high expectations because, one, it's a book about a dog, and I have heard several people talk about it, really enjoyed it. My friend Emma quite recently read this and quite enjoyed it. This was a bit of a disappointment. I really didn't like the perspective of Enzo. He is too human. Basically, to sum it up, he's too human. He understands, like, physics and geometry and speaks in a really human way and understands humans and human interactions and human emotions and thinks of himself as a human. He also swears, which really, like, threw me off. hearing a dog talking about taking a shit was just like a whole experience. And then also, there's events that take place that the dog has no way of knowing about. And it's acknowledged in the story that he wasn't there for the events. And he's just like, oh, this is what I've pieced together from, like, things that I've heard, like, afterwards. And I'm like, wow, you got a really complete picture with incredibly minute details of what went on in those parts that the dog wasn't present for. You really put together a very clear picture with, like exact dialogue. And it was just, I don't know, because I was already, like, not as invested in the, like, perspective, like, I was just really wasn't buying into that. So that I really didn't like. Having said that, this is the story of a dog and a dog's amazing, loving relationship with his owners, which is always going to get me in the feels. It just is. So there were parts of it that I did still, like, enjoy and still, like, hit me in the feels, like I said, but the perspective and all of that, like, did really throw me off. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. It's maybe a little bit generous. Like I said, it's a story about a loving dog, and I can't hate that. So I finished that. I then read The New Girl by R.L. Stine. So this is the first book in the original Fear Street series, which is a, I guess, YA, like, you know, the old school, like, really short little YA novels, like horror, mystery, thriller, suspense novels. They kind of all went through a gamut of different things. And I read a lot of these. I don't know which ones I read, but I did just read, like, different random ones throughout my childhood. And I wanted to go back and read some of these just for the pure nostalgia of it. I have to say, I was a little disappointed. This one is not good. It's not good. The writing is not great. The characters do things and you're just like, this makes literal no sense. I will also say the edition that I read had clearly been modernized. The books were, I think the original first Fear Street novel was published in 1989. So it really threw me off when the main character mentions that he's sitting there listening to his iPod. And I was like, iPod? Okay. And then later on there's mentions of Lord of the Rings, Missy Elliott. So clearly, like, any kind of pop culture reference they had changed in this edition of the book in order to, I guess, modernize it for a, like, modern audience, which I kind of wish hadn't happened. It was published in the 80s. I was happy to just read and, like, have the nostalgia effect of the 80s references. So yeah, the writing wasn't great. The story honestly wasn't that great, but I will say I did still give this 3 stars, basically out of pure nostalgia. I do think I'll read at least 1 or 2 more of these if they are on the same lines of this, like, really kind of not great writing, because, like, the writing was pretty poor, if I'm being honest. Then I probably will only read a couple of them because the nostalgia will wear pretty thin after reading, like, them and then not great. But I will still give a couple more a go because it was fun. Like, I still enjoyed my reading experience of it. Like, it was a fun time. But yeah, I definitely had a lower threshold for writing back in the day than I do now. So like I said, I gave that 3 stars. So that's it. Those are the books that I read last week. In terms of my current reads, I am actually currently reading 2 books. So I had started an audiobook on yesterday, and I didn't end up finishing it because I had a lot going on, like, with work yesterday. I went out to lunch and then we had a work function on after work. And so, like, it was kind of a busy-ish day and I didn't end up getting it done. So I am 68% of the way through, I think. So, like, a decent chunk of the way through. And the book would be helpful if I told you. And why am I drawing a blank on the title? Darius Is Not Okay. Oh my god, I can't think of the author's name. Oh, this is appalling. I'm normally much better about this information. There will be a picture with the author's name and everything on the screen. So that's the audiobook I'm currently listening to. This is a YA contemporary coming of age. We're following a main character who is Persian, like, from Iran, and he struggles growing up. He has depression and there's a lot going on. He's, like, suffering some kind of bullying things, and he just really feels like he hasn't found his place in the world when his family decides to take a trip to Iran to visit mainly to see his grandfather, who is dying from a brain tumor. And while he's there, he basically forms a friendship and kind of finds these connections and things that he's never been able to find when he's in the United States. And I haven't connected to it quite the way that I'd hoped to, but I am enjoying it for the most part. So like I said, I'll definitely get that finished on Monday, because the audiobook was only, I think, 7 or 8 hours, and I've only got like less than a third of it left to listen to. So I'll definitely have that done on Monday. And then in terms of my like physical read that I'm currently reading The Burning Room by Michael Connolly. And this, again, I expected to have finished last week, but I had that work function on after work yesterday, and I didn't get home till like 11 p.m. So I didn't have much like time to read. Like I do a lot of my reading in the evenings when I get home from work, and that was definitely eaten up yesterday. So I didn't end up getting this done, but I am very close to the end. I'm on page 321. This is only like 390 pages. Like I've got that much left. So about 70 pages left. So I'll definitely have this done today, and we'll be able to tell you my final thoughts next week. This is one of the Harry Bosch novels. Harry Bosch is a detective. These are just basically your standard kind of crime, police procedural type of novels. I enjoy them. I really enjoy following Harry Bosch and his career and his life. So I'm currently reading that. And that's it. Those are the books I read. That is what I'm currently reading. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below. If you've read any of the books that I read, or if you want to chat about what you guys have been reading over this past week, I would love to chat down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye guys.